Okay, the purpose of this video is to just document the transformation of this rim cylinder here into either a challenge lock or a practice lock. This particular lock brand is Locksmith's Own. It's a very nicely made lock, at least that's the way it looks to me, and it operates very smoothly and cleanly. Quite a beautiful lock. It seems worthy of doing something fun with, to me at least. So that's the mission. Okay, step one will be to pull this puppy apart. So I'm going to try and firstly remove the C-clip. That lovely cylinder. And the housing. So I want to be able to do some work in the chambers on this lock, and yeah, so I'm going to have to take the top of this off. There's a little bit of thin bit of brass here that's holding the pins in place. That's called being pinned down. Yeah, so my first step will be to take this off, and then we'll go from there. So next stop, filing. Okay, and next mission is to take a flat file and basically start filing away at the top of this until we get down to that little brass shim-like material that's holding the pins in place. Once that has been achieved, we'll at some point put some threading in here and seal down the pin chambers with some socket screws, brub screws, whatever you'd like to call them. Okay, I've been filing away for a bit. I'm finally getting to the point now where I think we can pull out this bit of brass and expose the pin chambers. So, stage one. Time to move along. I might try and clean this up a little bit though. Okay, so we've removed this little brass piece, and I've got a little bit of cleanup on the top. So we're basically where we want it to be. We've got access to these pin chambers so that we can do some threading inside here if we like. I may even do some drilling in the bottom here to allow myself to come up into this way. So that's that stage complete. We have the housing basically ready to start doing some work. Time to move on. Okay, next step we're going to do a little bit of work on the cylinder itself. I've decided that I'm going to thread all of these chambers. I need to clean this tool, but we're going to use a 3.5 millimeter tap, and we're going to go in each of these. I won't do it here because I'm at an awkward angle, but that's the mission. I'm going to do it nice and steadily and carefully and try and get some clean threads. Okay, clean tool. What I'd like to do is use a little bit of machine oil to help make it a little bit smoother. Just go gradually and get a start. Once it starts to bite, take a little turn back and go forward again, a little turn back, forward again, and just keep repeating that process. Let the pin chamber itself do most of the guiding. That will keep your tool straight. It's probably better off doing this in a vise, so maybe that's what I'll do now. So I'll put that there and I'll catch up with you again shortly. Okay, that's threading in the chambers. So the next step for me is coiling out some sandpaper, some 600 grit, and just quickly filing inside here each chamber, taking off any horrible rough edges. And after doing that, I might run through again with some 1200 grit. Again, just basically to clean up inside the lock after having ground our way through into the pin chambers, putting threads in there. Okay, just finishing off with the 1200. And just wanting to make lock operation a bit smoother. So by taking off any sharp edges and getting rid of any ropes that may have built up in there, should make it easier for the pins to move around and for the key to operate smoothly. I mean, we want there to be, we want to make it tricky, but we don't want to mess with operability of the lock. It must operate cleanly. At least that's my goal. So, threading in, cleaned up. That's basically the cylinder ready. So, moving on to the next step. Okay, just quickly, the next step I'm going to do here is use this milling bit, which is conveniently the same diameter as these holes. I'm going to use that to mark myself some pilot holes, I guess, at the bottom here. I want to be able to do it right through the bottom, so that then rather than having to thread the entire pin chamber, I can come up from the bottom and just thread the bottom of the pin chambers, thus leaving the top of this where the springs are nice and clear, and we don't mess with the operation of the springs at all. I think that's a good thing. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, once we've finished marking the holes, I'm going to use a standard drill bit, metal drill bit, to finish these holes. So that's the plan. Be right back. Okay, well, that's got our holes all the way through. As you can see, they're not the cleanest, but then again, I am doing this by hand, so you get what you get there. So, having done that, we've got some sharp edges that we're going to need to fix. As you can see, the cylinder will not go back in. Got a few sharp edges in there that we need to take off before moving on to the next step. So, with that in mind, I'm going to do some cleaning up and be right back. Okay, that much is done. Cylinder slides in and out quite nicely now, very smoothly, which is exactly what we wanted. Next, I'm going to use here a 3.5mm tap. The diameter of the pin chambers here seem to be very much like a Lockwood, so I'm going to treat it like that. I've marked roughly a depth here using a bit of electrical tape, because I just want to be able to go just a little bit into the pin chamber and just put threading at the very bottom, leaving the rest of the pin chamber clean so that the springs can operate smoothly and cleanly without excuse me, without any interference from any threading. And yeah, again, we just want just a little bit of threading at the bottom, just to be able to catch on some trickery that we may put into the pins themselves. And obviously we'll come back later and put some threading in the top here as well, probably 4mm, because I have 4mm grub screws, so that would be the sensible thing to do. Okay, we've done a little bit of work. We put some threading, whether you can see that or not from here, I'm not sure, in some of the top chambers, just at the very bottom, by going through the bottom here. We've done a little bit of a clean-up, just using the 1200 grit and the file, just to take off again some of the sharp edges, to ensure that the cylinder slots in and out smoothly. And we're just checking at every step along the way, making sure that each modification that we make does not affect the operation of the lock. Okay, so we went ahead and made a mark on the tap for how far we wanted to go in, and we just threaded the tops of these pin chambers, just enough for these little grub screws, or just deep enough rather for these little grub screws. These are about 5mm thereabouts. So the only other thing to do is to just give the insides of these pin chambers a little bit of a quick polish, just to take off any horrible edges that might be in there, and also just to give it a bit of a clean, really. Okay, so I went ahead and put the grub screws, the socket screws, in place. So now this lock can be loaded with springs and pins, and it will be back to a working lock. So we're almost there. We could leave it as is, but I think we'll go a little bit further than that and think about what to do with the pins themselves. So give me a moment to think about pins. Alrighty, back from pin creation. Can't get too close up with this camera without it getting blurry, so I'll try and take some photographs and show you better what I've done there. Nothing crazy is happening on the bottom. T-pin here and some serrations there. Got a little more creative up the top. This T-pin here, like a beveled edge and a couple of serrations. Created a couple of little interesting sculptures. But anyway, I won't labour on that here. I'll move on and try and take some photos. Okay, here we go. She's all together. Now we're going to face the music and see if it works. Taking the key. That didn't fight me too hard at all. So taking that extra time, I should test if it works. Nice. So it seems that taking that extra time to do a little bit of, sanding and polishing at each step pays off in spades, because that's just perfect, I think. You expect a bit of clunkiness building a challenge lock, but that's, that seems to be operating fine at the moment. So cool as. Fun. Hopefully that was useful to someone. I enjoyed it. Peace and be good, people. See you around. I'm out.
Just earthly goods. I ate weird berries in the woods. Now I'm seeing colors. I'm getting higher. I think I'll start a forest fire. There's a forest fire climbing the hills. Gonna watch California hose. Let it ride